First and foremost, we give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh. We do so by Hashem, Yahweh Shai. To them, the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, His Son, Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Hey, it's your boy, Officer Q, coming back at you. Hey, man, we got a little bit of breaking news and just the topic on oil and how it's going to play into some final prophecies and just into the things that are currently going on in the geopolitical scene. So, well, first, let's do, of course, like, share, and subscribe the video, right? Like, share, and subscribe. It does not cost you anything. Definitely will support the channel as we continue to try to do more work, put out more information on this SICARII Baltimore channel. And if you look at the ticker, there's a subscribe to GRLA on X, IG, or Instagram and Facebook. And then, of course, I also have Officer Q on YouTube also. So definitely working on a lot right now and trying to find some different ways to be able to get more information, out to you guys and to increase my workload through the spirit. So, definitely be great if you guys could support that. If you want to support the camp monetarily, of course, on the camp channel, you can always give, like in the within the YouTube comments and things of that nature. But the camp Cash App, $ SICARII Baltimore, to help with various things that we do as we continue to try to help to build up the Virginia and DC and Maryland markets and try to wake up the lost sheep of the house of Israel. So that being said, let's just jump right into it. I'm going to hit a quick precept. I'm just going to read this precept. I'm not going to pull it up on the screen. This precept is Ecclesiastes 1:9. The thing that hath been is the thing which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. There's no new thing under the sun. We can see through millennia different wars happening and people fighting one another for resources and power, right? This is how kingdoms rise. This is also how kingdoms fall. So, there's no new thing under the sun. So some of the things that we're going to see within these topics and some of these different posts, articles, so forth and so on that I'm going to show today, it should not be any surprise, how all this ties in to the third woe, which that third woe is World War III, right? I'm going to read this. This is Revelation 11:14. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly, right? That's Revelation 11:14. The third woe cometh quickly, right? And it's fast approaching, right? So within inside of the visions that John the Revelator is getting, he can see the second woe gone, and that it wasn't going to take a long time for the third woe to come either. And we may think that, the 1940s and World War II, like that was a really long time ago. And really, it was not. It really was not a long time ago. We're looking at what, 70 years? 70 years is not a crazy amount of time. That's, you got grandparents 70 years old, so it's not like you're talking about multiple generations or anything of that nature, right? So this thing is fast approaching. And I think with that being said, let's let me see here. Let's start with let's start down here. Yeah, so this is X. This X is primarily where I go to for majority of my news information. It happens quick, fast, and in a hurry. It's hours, if not sometimes days, and sometimes a week before they decide they want to put out certain information on the mainstream quote unquote media. But things come pretty fast and furious on X, formerly known as Twitter, right? And the censorship is not as bad on X. You know, it's pretty close to being the Wild Wild West. You know, you can pretty much put up what you want, although they have tried to start tightening up on certain, you know, anti you know what type posts. But outside of that, you can find most actual factual information going on X. So, like I said, subscribe to Dawa Yasharala Officer Q on X. Right. So this first article we're looking at is Syrian Arab forces have started seizing Al Omar oil fields from the U.S. control after tribal forces attacked U.S. backed SDF. Right, Syrian tribal forces have captured 81 square kilometers so far in their ongoing offensive. Arab tribal forces have fully captured the water station, Salakia. Let's go back down here. It says they have fully captured the water station in man, I lost it. Salakia. Let's go back. Here we go. Yeah, they have fully captured the water station. Where is that water station? In how you say this? Diban, a major SDF stronghold in Deir ez-Zor. The U.S. coalition has responded with airstrikes showing signs of panic. Why would the United States be panicking? Because the Syrian tribal forces have now started to try to take back the oil fields. Syria is a place that is primarily divided up between Syrian forces and Syrian-backed tribal areas. The United States is there. Turkey is in there in the kind of northwest kind of portion of it. Israel has taken a place years ago called the Golden Heights. It's an occupied territory in the north of Israel, in the south of South Lebanon. But the Lebanese portions, Hezbollah fighting within inside of that, because of course it borders Syria. You have all this that's going on within inside of that area. And you also have the Russians there. And I want to say that the Brits and the French are there also within coalition with the United States, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, all these different entities are there. The Russians are helping Syria because they're trying to keep the United States from gaining access to all the oil fields. They've been trying to get al-Bashar out of office for many years. They've been trying to set up coups. They've been trying to assassinate. They've tried all types of stuff, but the man is pretty much, he's the president of Syria. The man is pretty much, I'm not going to say untouchable, because we know the Most High can touch whoever he wants to be touched. But the Most High can also be like, hey, I don't want you to touch this guy at all, because I need for him to be riled up at the end to try to help fight against, the West. So that being said, that's the dynamic of what's going on. So this area that these forces have now gone back into was being controlled by the United States. Now it's been a long time that they've had any type of like a real opportunity to touch this area and to get it back, because Iran is getting ready, from what it looks like, all intents and purposes, to launch this retaliation attack on Israel. The Syrian forces and Syrian tribal forces are seeing an opportunity, and they went back and reclaimed this. Right. So from this point of this article, which is about 8 o'clock this morning, at this point in time right now, it is 2:08 p.m. Eastern time, and they have actually captured those oil fields again. So the United States has been pushed out. Whatever military they had on the ground was overrun, and the Syrian forces and tribal forces have taken back that area. That's huge, because this whole thing, if you look on the screen, it says how the fight over oil will destroy the West, because this whole fight is all about the oil, right? This whole fight is about the oil, and not to get too far ahead of this, the whole fight is about the oil and what's happening in the market, and this first signaling of a crash happening. This is also about oil and how oil is settled in the markets. So everything that we see that's going on is going to play a role, from what I can see, in Babylon's fall, and how the chips will fall based in prophecy. So let's go. So now look at here. This was 2 hours ago. So about 12 o'clock, it says that Syrian soldiers have recaptured the Al-Amara oil refinery from occupied U.S.-backed forces. So they have taken that back, right? Let's see here. And I'm going to slow it down. We're going to go a little bit back in time, back to World War II, right? During World War II, a lot of people don't know. Let me see if I can. I don't know why that put that over there. I'll just read it from the side. During World War II, a lot of people don't realize that one of the main reasons that the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor was because of the sanctions and the oil embargo that the United States had put on them, right? So we're going to read this. It says, the United States officially entered World War II on December 7th, 1941, after the Japanese military launched a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. However, the U.S. had been involved in the conflict for over 2 years before the attack. Now listen to what this sounds like. Providing military supplies and other assistance to the Allies as early as September 1940. So the United States did not automatically enter into World War II. This is one thing we also have to understand. When these wars, from a United States standpoint, World War I and World War II, the United States did not automatically just jump into these wars. They supplied their allies with weaponry to help push back whoever they were pushing back before they decided to jump into the war. So now we look at like Ukraine, right? Ukraine, United States, and of course, which is a part of NATO. What's going on there? They're supplying weaponry and resources to the Ukrainians to fight back against the Russians, right? What's happening in just other places? What's happening like in Venezuela? There was and slash is an opposition party that's funded by the West, that's been there for 10 to 15 years, that has been trying to overthrow Nicolas Maduro, right, out of power, because he will not give up the oil that is currently nationalized, owned by the government, and he won't, allow anybody to come in and develop his oil reserves, because he understands what's going to happen. They're going to come in, they're going to take it, they're going to kill him, kick him out, because he's not going to play ball, and He already knows what's going to happen. So they've been putting sanctions on him. This right here, I always say his name wrong, but I think it's Bashar. Oh man, I can't remember. But anyway, this is the president of Syria, right? They've been trying to do the same thing to him, but they can't get rid of him, right? He's one of the few in the Middle East they have not been able to get rid of. So they want these oil fields, right? Remember, oil for 50 years has been primarily settled, not totally, but primarily settled in dollars, right? So as time goes on, and because of places like, let's scroll down to the next, Brics control 47% of global oil. The United States owns just 2.1%. These Brics nations have put together their own economic group coalition that's really slowly has turned into a military group alliance also, right? So they put this together, and now they have this put together. You have a vast portion of oil trade in the world that is no longer settled in dollar bills anymore. So for the United States, that's bad news. That hurts the United States financially, that now that the dollar is not what's dominating the world, because it takes away the leverage from being able to sanction people. Think about a sanction like, I don't know, they can go in and just seize dollars from countries. They did it to Putin and to some of the quote unquote oligarchs in Russia, going and seize their bank accounts. They'll seize different properties around the world if it's in a country that is an ally to the United States, or they'll make it to where you can't repair certain products without certain parts. You want to make and create and build airplanes, they'll make it to where you can't buy something as simple as the particular bolts that are needed to make sure you can put the aircraft together. Little things like that add up, and these are what the sanctions are. Sanctions can be monetary, they can be goods, they also can be from an oil standpoint or resources standpoint, right? Put a sanction on Iran so they can't export and sell their oil to other countries, because Iran doesn't want to play ball and be down with the United States trying to control their oil exports via the dollar, right? So this is what's playing out, right before us in the world right now. Let me go back over here to the right-hand side about World War II. President Franklin D. Roosevelt wanted to help the Allies defeat Nazi Germany, but American law and the public fears prevented him from doing so until the country was prepared, right? So now what has America been doing now? Trying to prepare themselves, although they're still not prepared. And I don't think that the opposition, and from what you can tell biblically in prophecy, is not going to allow them to ever get to the point of being totally prepared. They're never going to be prepared, right? America's been caught off guard with this whole war in Ukraine, and the war and things that are going on in the Middle East. So, but yeah, so this is how World War II started. And the United States took about a year and 3-4 months before they actually joined that war, right? Let me see if I can find. I hit an article on the embargo that the United States had. I'll have to try to find it while we do this. All right, so let's look at this. Venezuela has the world's largest oil reserves, right? Venezuela has the world's largest oil reserves, has the has the continent's largest gold reserves, the largest gold reserves in South America, and has the largest gas reserves, natural gas reserves in South America also. And this guy here, Jackson Hinkle, who is um, a pretty infamous character within inside of the X or so-called Twitter space. He says, "Now do you understand why the CIA is trying to illegally coup President Maduro?" And he's correct, because we've seen this. We've seen this with Muammar Gaddafi. Muammar Gaddafi wanted to the late president of Libya. He wanted to create a gold-backed currency for the continent of Africa that was separate and opposite of the dollar, and he wanted to use the oil as backing with the inside of that gold back, and they wanted to settle the oil transactions with whatever that currency was going to be. Hey man, when they got wind of that, the United States was in there. They were in there as quick as they possibly could be. And if you know the quote from Hillary Clinton, she was like, "We came, we saw, and we killed him," or something like that. So they told you what they did to this man. Had this man killed, drugged through the streets. And Libya was one of the wealthiest countries in all of Africa. Didn't have any debt. They had all their own resources, and now it's been taken over by the United States and the West, right? This is what Nicolas Maduro is trying to not allow to happen. This is why so many sanctions have been put on Venezuela, and so many sanctions were put on their oil to not be able to export their oil around the world to make money, because the United States is upset because they won't give it to them. But Venezuela is getting ready to join the BRICS. Well, let me see if I can find a quick article on that. Venezuela is getting ready to join the BRICS. So by Venezuela joining the BRICS, and they're saying that they're going to allow their oil to be exported and developed by these BRIC nations. Let me see. Then Venezuela. Let's get this real quick. Venezuela and the BRICS. Pull this up. Yeah, so Venezuela and the BRICS. Let's share this. All right. Boom. First article. Venezuela announces investments from BRICS countries, invites the bloc to accompany, or invites bloc to accompany July 28th election. Right. So this article was June 18th. So we can see, if we go back just a little bit, just a little couple months, and we can see that he was already saying that he was going to allow them to do this in different types of investments. We already know what those investments were going to be. The oil, which Venezuela is has the most oil reserves in the world, right? They're about, I want to say they have about 35% more oil reserves than what Saudi Arabia does. Maybe a little bit more than that. That's actually being officially confirmed, but they're saying that they have twice as much as Saudi Arabia if you add in the unconfirmed amount that people think they have. Right? So when Maduro starts doing this, that throws the West into a panic, because the West has been trying to get this for years, and now he's about to give it to Russia. in China, in Brazil, right, in India, in South Africa, and all the other BRICS plus nations that just joined, including Saudi Arabia and some others, right? So this is how this fight over oil is going to end up destroying the West, because there's nothing in sight that's showing that the West is going to be able to regain control over all these places with the amount of power and resources and backing that these BRICS nations have all put together with one another. There's nothing, there's no light at the end of the tunnel that says America is going to be able to get out of this one. No, it looks like it's going to be it was a slow downturn, and then it's going to be a quick fall, right? All the way up until the point in time where World War III kicks off, and then at some point in time in that World War III, somebody on that other side is going to flip that switch, and all America's enemies and a portion of America's allies are going to turn to destroy it, right? But let's keep going. Let me read this. Let me read this precept real quick. It's the book of Habakkuk 2 and 5. Habakkuk, or somebody have to say Habakkuk 2 and 5. Yeah, also, because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. Right? This is what America has done. This is what the West has done. They've gathered all these nations unto them, taken all these nations, taken all these people, controlling all these economies and all these different people around the world, all these resources, right? But at some point in time, these people are going to want to say, hey, we can do this for ourselves. We don't need your help. We don't need you here leeching off of us no more. How about you allow us to have some economic freedom and allow us to feel empowered and to grow and to be a great country, versus you keeping your hand in it and you keeping us at a certain level to where we can't get past that without needing you. And now you have these countries that are fighting back. But verse 6, so Habakkuk 2 and verse 6, shall not these take up a parable against him? Who are these? These are the nations and the people that have been all heaped unto Babylon, right? Verse 6, shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his. What we're seeing right now is America trying to increase that which is not his, which is not theirs. And they've been doing this, right? They've been trying to take on and taking the resources from all these different countries for a long time. Go back and reshare this. Right. And now, yeah, so here we go. I'll put this one up. They've been trying to do this, been trying to take over this. And now you have these people that they've been doing it to, taunting them, saying, oh, you think we're gonna keep doing this forever? Yeah, right. We, Ezekiel 38, or no, Salakia and Joel talks about let the weak say they are strong. At some point in time, all these countries that think that they've been weak, that now have all come in league together and got backing of their big brother in Russia, right? They're gonna be like, yo, we strong too. If we put all of our resources together, we can fight back. This is what's going on. Right. So let me finish out this verse. Habakkuk 2 and verse 6. Shall not all these take up a parable against him and a taunting proverb against him, and say, Woe to him that increaseth that which is not his. How long? Question mark. And to him that laden himself with thick clay, right? What is that thick clay? Going to the Hebrew, that thick clay is talking about debt. So he's been gathering up all these resources and taking lands that are not his. And as he's been doing it, he's been accumulating debts also. His economy is nothing but a credit economy full of debt, right? And I don't have time to get into it in this video, but just so that you understand that when a country buys oil, they have to buy it in some type of currency, right? There's so much talk about Japan and what's going on with the Japanese yen. That's their money and their markets, because the Japanese are not allowing, or the United States is not allowing the Japanese to settle their oil trades in their own currency, in the yen. They're making them settle it in dollars, which actually is currently hurting them because of other situations that are going on in their economy. But at some point in time, the Japanese are going to have to be, they're going to say, yo, we got to protect ourselves. We've not done this for as long as you have wanted us to, but we can't do it anymore. And it's going to continue to make America and push America to a free-for-all, because the Japanese are going to end up selling those dollars, because the Japanese also own majority of this thick clay, this debt that America has. The Japanese own majority of it. And so when they need to now buy oil in their currency, which is a better currency for buying oil for them, they got to sell the treasuries or the debt that they have in dollars. So they get the money and convert it to their Japanese yen and then buy the oil. And the United States does not want that to happen, because then the United States has to pay back that debt. Right? Hey, the Most High has America in a complete trick bag right now. Like, you wouldn't even believe. I know I'm a, as time goes on, as long as we hear and prophesying, and America's still standing up until the point in time, Yahweh Ratazah, I'll be of those men that endure, make it all the way through. You'll learn that I'm somewhat of a nerd when it comes to this stuff. I like the intricate understandings of certain things to see how the puzzle pieces all get put together. But when you realize just a little bit of this, the Most High is amazing. And he has this whole world, especially America, in a complete trick bag. Like, there's no way out for America. And he's allowed them to be puffed up and to do what they've been doing to people for so long, just to get to this point, so that way they would fall hard and there wouldn't be any way to get back up. Right? So, but yeah, so now they got to deal with the brick. Now, which is now the Brics and the Brics Plus. And what happened, this has really been going on, but this article is from August 1st. Says the Brics call on the Middle East, where we at with all this conflict that started brewing up over the course of the last month, right there in the Middle East, to stop using the dollar for oil trade. Really, this is a leverage to get Saudi Arabia to stop using the dollar for oil trade even more. That's really what this is a cry for from them. Right? It's a cry for that. And I'm going to see if I can find, oh man, here we go. And this is why it's all about oil. Again, Israel is pillaging not just Gaza cities, but also its waters. Most people don't realize that there is around $500 billion worth of oil and gas resources in Gaza and off the waters that border Gaza that basically would be under Gaza's control. This is why Israel does not want, number one, the Palestinians there, and they're trying to just destroy the entire place because all they're going to do is use it as a big refinery anyway. And then they're going to settle certain parts of it that they may want. But for the most part, they want to be able to go and develop and find whatever oil is right there. And they know primarily what's there, but then there's a heavy amount of it that's off the coast also. So off of that coast, if you allow the Palestinians to be their own state, then that means they also get control of their own waters. So as the Israelis will never, ever allow this to happen. They will go to war before this ever happens, which is what you're seeing now. Right? So now you look at all these hot spots around the world, and the same common denominator is war. Okay? So let's see. Let's keep going here. If we look right now in Nigeria, let's see if I can, right here, Nigeria, right? During ongoing protests in Nigeria, on all these places that have these protests pretty much point back to the same thing, because this is the MO of the American government in the West, is to set up coups, uprisings in certain countries that they want to be able to go in and milk for the resources, right? So during ongoing protests in Nigeria, about 40 persons wearing Russian flags were taken into custody. Christopher Musa, the chief of army of Nigeria, right? So the Nigerians would rather the Russians come in and to help develop and protect and to set up trade agreements with them, which would mean that the Brics would be a part of these trade agreements, versus the United States, who has been trying to get in to Nigeria. Nigeria has, let me see if where's this at? Now, this is a little bit dated, right? Nigeria at one point in time over the last 2 years had 0 oil refineries that were actually up and working and functioning. But they have somewhere around, they're in the top 10 in the world in oil reserves, right? They're in the top 10 in the world in oil reserves. They are currently, let's see here, looking about top 15 really in oil reserves. Venezuela is number 1 in oil reserves. Venezuela is number 1. Saudi Arabia is number 2. Let's see if I can put this in a. See if I can get this inside of here real quick, just so I can give y'all the visual on it. I didn't realize I didn't have this inside of my selected post. Just to lock you, bear with me 1 second. All right, let's see if we get this in here. In the folder, Oil and War. Let's see. Bookmarks. Oil and War. Let's see if it's down here or not. No. Well, you'll have to just look it up for yourself. I don't know why it's not showing up yet, but maybe at some point in time it'll kick on here. Let me see if I go in and go back out. See if it'll show up now. I want to spend too much time trying to find this article. Yeah, so it's not showing up yet. Okay, cool. So yeah, but they're like top 15 in the world in oil. But anyway, because of the reserves and they're not refining them, it means they're just sitting there. And now the United States is losing control of oil around the world, which also means that there's putting pressure on their currency and their economy. Now they got to start looking for a place to go in and put uprisings in to try to come swoop in and take over. And they come in and swoop in with the conversation of democracy, and they start talking about all the things that the current governments are doing to the people, and they swoop in like they're the heroes. Man, this is the same. We've seen this same plan, this same MO, the same thing play out for years. We saw it play out in Iraq. They attempted to get this thing to play out in the USSR. The USSR failed, but they weren't able to get in and to get all the resources in Russia, which has vast resources in oil, natural gas, coal, uranium, plutonium, like goes on and on and on in that place. They weren't able to do it there, right? In other places also. Libya, Syria, Iran, they've attempted, so forth and so on. So yeah, what else we got here? Oh, here we go. In the Gaza Strip, just to kind of flash back real quick, in the Gaza Strip, there's 450 billion reasons why Israel wants control of the Gaza Strip. They do not just want to steal their land, they want to steal their oil and gas fields, which just goes back to they want the land because of the gas fields, and they're only going to settle a portion of this land. They're not really concerned about trying to put no homes or anything on this land. They're going to destroy it all, level it, is what they want to do, and then develop it. Right? That's why they want it. Let's see if we can listen to this.
$1 gift from Gaza is rich, gas rich, at least 1.4 trillion cubic feet rich, to be precise. But there's a catch.
Geologists and natural resources economists have confirmed that the occupied Palestinian territory lies above sizable reservoirs of oil and natural gas wealth in Area C of the occupied West Bank and the Mediterranean coast off the Gaza Strip. To date, the real and opportunity costs of the occupation exclusively in the area of oil and natural gas have accumulated to tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars.
Back in 1999, the Palestinian authorities signed a deal with British Gas. Just off the Gaza coast, they struck it lucky, and 2 wells were drilled. That's Gaza Marine 1 and 2. It was a multi-billion-dollar gift from God, an economic boon both home and abroad.
This is one of the key messages here today. There will be gas available for export. And from my conversations with Palestinian officials, including President Arafat, it is clear that they have no interest in just sitting on a gas surplus.
Fast forward.
Now, I'm going to pause this real quick because it said Yasser Arafat, right? Yasser Arafat was the old Palestinian head of state. I don't know if you call him the president or prime minister, whatever he was, of Palestine, right? And they finally got rid of him years back, but this is back in 2007. So they've been trying to get this land, and this is what the whole thing has turned into, is because of this, right? Israel wants the land because they feel like that they are the original people, which we know they're not, and they want these resources right here. So this is 2007. Now let's see. She said she's going to fast forward, so let's keep listening.
To 2007, Hamas comes.
Oh, Salakia. This was before 2007. Now she's pushing to 2007, and then I guess she'll go up to current times now.
To power, and Israel launches an offensive on the Gaza Strip.
I know I paused this a couple times. One last thing just to mention. Hamas was funded and helped and propped up by Benjamin Netanyahu and the Ish government to get rid of Yasser Arafat. Right? Remember what I told you before. Once a place realizes that the America and the West is full of you know what, and they get wind of that, then they start telling them that, man, you're not coming over here doing anything anymore. And then America just tries to send somebody else in to overthrow that regime and to put in their own puppet government. Hamas was a puppet government of Israel. But Hamas, over time, figured out and realized that the Israelis were full of BS. And this is why we are at the point of where we're at today. So let's keep listening.
Strip, leaving behind 1,400 dead Palestinians, but taking with it the gas fields. Now, within the year, Israel announced the discovery of the Leviathan natural gas field, which did include Gaza's riches, all in all valued at $453 billion. Now, since then, Gazans haven't seen a shekel, or to be more accurate, they have been denied around $47 billion in revenue. As for Tel Aviv, well, it's gunning to become a new hub.
This is a historical moment in which the small country of Israel becomes a significant player in the global energy market. The Memorandum of Understanding will enable Israel, for the first time, to export Israeli natural gas to Europe. And it is even more impressive looking at the significant set of agreements we signed over the last year, which position Israel and the Israeli energy and water sectors as a key global player.
Let's just run through this then. At that moment in time, so we're talking 2022, Russian oil and gas was sanctioned. Iranian oil was sanctioned. Syrian oil fields were, and still are, illegally occupied by US forces. Now, the key port of Latakia was being bombed by Israel, and the port of Beirut, the gateway to the Middle East, lay in ruins. Enter this small country of Israel right here with its seas of gas, its working ports, an answer to Europe's problems, and perhaps, most critically, the US blessing. Because in case you didn't know, US Congress has decided that Israeli energy is in the highest national security interests of Washington. So DC was only too happy for Tel Aviv to become a key global player. After all, it had itself previously mulled over ways in which to make its 51st state a window onto Europe.
Right. So you can see why what's going on in the Middle East is so important to the United States. Why it's so important to the West, because it's all about the oil. It's all about the oil, all about the resources, right? And, not to beat a dead horse, but this is ultimately what's going to be the downfall of America. It's putting their hand into the cookie jar in too many places in the world, right? And that's going to be the downfall. Let me read this in Isaiah. This is Isaiah. Let's see here. What do I want? Isaiah 51. I want it. Salakia. I'll find what I wanted here in a second. Let me read this in Sirach. It's the book of Sirach, chapter 10 and verse 8. Because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. Right? This is how kingdoms rise and how kingdoms fall. Kingdoms rise and they fall because of riches that are in unrighteous dealings. What are injuries, wars, assassinations happening? All through deceit, through being slick, conniving, tell you one thing, do another. Doesn't this sound like America in the West? Right, but this is how it's played out through centuries. Its kingdoms rise and fall because of these things, either backdoor deals amongst people and politicians or backdoor deals with governments. And then another government sees a different opportunity for a better situation. They try to, undercut the next country, right? We just listened to the lady talk about Yasser Arafat and Hamas coming in, right? So they were put in place to undercut Yasser Arafat, the first, I think he's the president or prime minister of Palestine. And then they came in, undercut him by being told that they were being given in all this different opportunity. Then they realized that America and Israel was full of BS. And then they started bucking up, and now it's just full-fledged war. Right? But this is how a kingdom is translated in from one to another. Right? Let's see here. Let's go through a couple more of these articles, and then we'll be done here. Boom, boom, boom. India settling oil transactions, some in cryptocurrencies. Not settling sometimes even in their own currency or in the dollar, but the crypto space. Okay, let's take a look at this real quick. In Venezuela also, you have a country near Venezuela called Guyana. Let me see if I get a map pulled up real quick. All right. Oh, that baby mad. She can't be down here with her daddy right now. Yep. So, baby mad, she can't be with daddy right now, but that's all right. All right, so let's pull this up real quick. Got this Google Maps. Right. All right, boom. So right here, we got Venezuela and we got Guyana. Right? And if I'm not mistaken, this portion right here is the disputed lands of Guyana. This would actually be I want to say the true country of Guyana here. This land is disputed between Venezuela and Guyana, right? So now if I go back, to this article, we kind of understand what it's talking about here. All right. So the article says, what was this? This was August 3rd, but it said from April 24th, communist land grab for Guyana's oil-rich Escobal region on the border with Venezuela. So ultimately what has happened is that land that is on the border with Venezuela, they actually found major oil reserves there also. Go figure. So right here, with the inside of these waters, we'll just do this. Somewhere within these waters, they're trying to say that it's like right here. There was major oil reserves found. Some of it trickles over here, but Venezuela is saying a portion of this goes onto their sovereign land / waters. This land has been contested between Guyana and Venezuela for many years, 100 years. So you can see what that brings in when you got Exxon and some of these other companies come in and found $1 trillion worth of oil off the coast. This would be why the United States needs Nicolas Maduro out. Because whatever oil fields that Venezuela has, they are owned by the government. They're not allowed for private sector development and selling. And the United States can't have that. So just to understand, it's all about the oil. All right. We're almost done. I think y'all get the picture, get the point. I did want to show you just a couple more things. This is an article 9 hours ago. Venezuela explains, or it's like Venezuela expands military presence at the Guyana border in perpetual pre-war footing. So they had already put military there. Now they're building up, putting more military there after the attempted coup, from what is being told by the West on Nicolas Maduro. After these elections that the West is trying to say were fraudulent, right? Let's see here. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Keep going. All right. So we talked about Japan earlier. Listen to this. This is to be the easiest way to kind of break this down. At some point, the U.S. will have to allow Japan to buy oil using the Japanese yen and settle trade balances with oil exporting countries with physical gold. At some point in time, they're going to have to let them do this because Japan's just going to end up having to just do it, right? Just like what the Brics Plus is doing. That's the only solution without crashing the markets. So the only solution that they're going to have, if they're trying to keep the markets up, is going to allow basically the dollar to crash and allow this oil to be purchased in yen and settled in physical gold or possibly some other type of resource. And we understand that we are at the point in prophecy where we are on the cusp of World War III, and we are looking into economic collapse that would bring on that beast, mark of the beast system. And the dollar would have to be gone, crashed, or at the point of crashing for them to be ready to implement that. And that's where we're at, right? I'll read this in Revelation 13 real quick. Let's see. Slovakia. Let me get this thing pulled up right here. Computer acting up. But yeah, so they're going to have to at some point in time allow them to actually settle those transactions that way. All right, Revelation 13 and verse 11. It says, "And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake like a dragon." Hey, man, who is that? This second beast is America. The first beast would be the revised Roman Empire, NATO, and the EU. But tells you within inside of the book of Revelation, Revelation 17, and some other spots, also I think 18, that there's a woman that is controlling and driving that first beast, right? But just in Revelation 13, it just tells you that it is a second beast, right? So they're coming up with another beast, and how does that beast? He spake as a dragon. He always be saying that ultimately acting like his shit don't stink and like he control everybody and people got to do what he say, so forth and so on, right? Verse 12, he exercised all power of the first beast before him. What was the first beast before him? Was the original Roman Empire, right? Then revitalized, that will be the beast that's before him. So he took that power and thrust himself into an even more powerful position, right? And he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and caused the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. The ancient Roman Empire fell, but was not completely destroyed. Wasn't destroyed. They just scattered and broke off into segmented parts, 7 different kingdoms, and then formulated to what we know today as NATO and in the EU, biblically as the 10 horns, right? 13, and he doth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. When he dropped those nukes on Japan, right? So when he dropped those nukes on Japan, what ends up happening later on down the road? Japan has been America's bitch for what, 80 years? Is that right? Yeah, 70 some odd. And it may not be the entire amount of time, but for a vast portion of time, Japan just does what America tells them to do. Right? People go to Japan to get cheap financing because Japan's been running at 0% interest rates on their money. Right? But anyway, we won't get into that. But the United States has been telling Japan not to sell the treasuries, the debt that they're holding, because Japan owns a vast majority of America's debt. But at some point in time, the jig is going to be up, right? And because they dropped those 2, they made fire come down from heaven. They've been able to control Japan, and not just Japan. They've been able to scare everybody else off in the world, up until this point in time where people have had enough, basically. So, all right, let's keep going here. Oh, Salaki. Man, my bad. What am I thinking about? Fire come down from heaven. Let's go back to Revelation 13 and 14. And deceive them that dwell on the earth by means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying unto them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. This image of the beast is going into Western society, right? The image of the beast is not talking about white Jesus, although white Jesus is within of Western society as a whole. Right, Western society and its democracy and its way of life and its rainbow group and it's all this. This is what is being talked about when you're dealing with the image. Verse 15, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. So what do? If you don't do what they want you to do, they're going to come through and they're going to try to kill you, or they're going to try to remove you. Right? Saddam Hussein, Muammar Gaddafi, Afghanistan as a whole, which is crazy because the people they try to get out of Afghanistan, the Taliban, is who's the ruling party today. They did it to what's your 9/11 boy, Osama bin Laden, right? The rumor headed that he was working for the CIA, for the government, for the United States government for a period of time, trying to reclaim certain parts of Afghanistan or certain parts that he was wanting. Right? But whenever these people figure out that the West is not there for them, the West just kills them. Right? Verse 15 again, Revelation 13 and 15. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. If you don't get down with the program, they're gonna kill you. You don't get down with the program, they're gonna kill you. They're gonna try to assassinate you all over the place, so forth and so on, right? Verse 16, and he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand and in their foreheads. Right? This is the mark of the beast. This second beast is given that mark, and he's going to try to push that out onto Western society. He ain't gonna be able to push it out onto the BRIC nations, but the nations that he still has a footing on and control over, he's going to try to push that out onto, these places. And that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Right. And what is that getting into? That mark of the beast is an implantable RFID chip, right? Or if they have some other type of advanced implantable device that they want to use. We already see Elon Musk and the Neuralink for the brain. So, this is how this whole thing is playing out, right? And this is how the mark of the beast system, from what I can tell in my analysis and understanding and prophecy, understanding in geopolitical situations around the world, this is how it looks that it will play out. Is that this World War III is ultimately going to kick off, but it's all because of the oil, all because of power and greed, right? And America really, at that point in time, and their allies have bit off more than they can chew. They've pushed one too many people, and now those people, as pursuant to Habakkuk 2, 5, and 6, are going to be a taunting proverb and say, man, you've heaped all these lands and people unto you. Hey, at some point in time, how much longer can you do this? And we tired of you kicking us in our back. We done with it. We fighting back. Everybody fighting back now. Iran fighting back now. Right? All right, so let's see what other articles up here. This is a map of the BRICS. This is a map. This is what it would be as of 2024. It's not actually 70%. It's really like 40 to 50%. It might be a little bit higher, around 55% now. But they have overtaken and have majority of the major oil interests in the world, because we go into the west coast of Africa, like Nigeria trying to join the BRIC. A lot of these countries have aligned themselves now with the BRIC. So, let's see here. Boom, 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 boom. I think that's it, man. I thought there was one more. Yeah, there is one more article. I want you to, if you want to just have, if If you're a nerd like me, you want a little understanding. Oh, here we go. This one. This was one. Donald Trump says we have to fill up the strategic oil reserves immediately. Right? Trump is saying this because ultimately the United States has released its strategic oil reserves to try to keep the gas prices low. Because this is why gas prices have not gone through the roof, although all this stuff is happening in the Middle East. 2 reasons. A lot of these places are not settling their oil transactions in dollars no more. And because, you know, from the standpoint of the strategic oil reserves pumping out that, giving out that gas, that oil every month to help boost the production, you know, within inside of the country, keeping it low. Right. Let me see here. December 4th, I put a post up on X. It may or may not pull up. I doubt it. But anyway, I'll read what the post said. The post says, America doesn't want to take the oil and gas out of its own land because its reserves are shrinking, and what's in the ground is acting as a strategic reserve. So it's not even so much them having this stuff already sitting in refineries and putting it out. What they have in the ground is basically their strategic reserve, right? So now what they don't want to mess with that. They want to go and take somebody else's. So when Trump says that we gotta increase the strategic oil reserves immediately, this really is code word for we gotta go to war with Iran and get that oil. That's what fill up the strategic oil reserves actually means. Because the strategic oil reserves for the United States are actually, for the most part, in the ground, unproduced, if you want to say, right? So, all right. So this guy right here, Mr. Michael A. Guyett, CFA, dude is extremely smart. Just from the standpoint of if you want to just dig in and understand kind of how this will play out, so that way you can, you know, help to better measure the times as the what is that? Second Ezra chapter 9 says we're measuring the time and also keeping ourselves occupied in prophecy. The book of Sirach 39:1. It says Japan has no choice but to keep raising rates to support the yen. Remember, this is entirely about oil, right? This is entirely about oil. As I explained in my pinned video, if you go to his page, he has a video that's pinned and gets into the real nitty-gritty details on why it's really happening. And you know, whenever I used to do a lot of trading, and I traded oil and other commodities, and you know, for a while, but he's probably one of the, of course, he's way smarter than me when it comes to this stuff, but certain things that I could see and I really couldn't explain why I was doing it, but I kind of knew why I was doing it, but I couldn't really give the hardcore explanation to it. This dude gives you the hardcore explanation to what's really going on. So just remember, this is entirely about oil. As I explained in my pinned video, the whipsaw I warned is here. So basically what he's saying is do not get pump faked, because ultimately this is going to be what they call a bull trap. You know, this market might whip up and down, back and forth for a little bit. And people, then at some point in time, it could start going up and people are like, see, everything's good. And then it just completely crashed. And now everything is wiped out. Right. So, but yeah, go follow that guy, Michael Guyett. Pretty smart dude. It says, what is this? what is this? It's at lead lag report. I think that's what that says. Yeah. So do that. But I mean, there you have it. Oh, this is a good chart. Crude oil has fallen to its lowest price since early February. You can see it's not the fact that crude oil is falling to its lowest price. It's fallen to its lowest price as it is related to dollars. So the dollar bill is on its way out, and a new system is fast approaching, from what we can see. But if you got questions, comments, concerns, put the comments in the go ahead and comment. But you can also make sure you go to those social media sites, pages, and subscribe there for just daily updates and information, right? And if you look on the bottom ticker, of course, on the ticker at the bottom, if you want to support, Cash App, $SICARII, Baltimore. But with that, give all praise and honor and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh. Do so by Hashem Yahweh Shai. Pray you guys were edified, and Shalom.